we will do, we would actually save these recordings. We're gonna create like a Google Classroom and put the recordings on them so that all the students, even if they're not in the live, I'm not too sure what's with Nikisa though, because I know she is a paid person as well as Amanda. But I didn't message me and say if they were not going to be in this session anyway, right? So we're happy to have all of you. Just about 10 in all. Not everybody, like I said, is here. I actually have somebody else that's not on the live today, right? Um, so do you have any questions? Did you all take down anything? Did you all pick up anything? Um, Let me know. Something? Yes, no? Make us start. Any questions, any concerns? Are you all still there? Are you all still here?
Well, I came in a little late, sir.
Yeah, okay. Yes.
But I saw that for the exam, you could do it at home. Is there an option where we could do it at the school?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, like NEBOSH is the sole so this is one. I mean, Julian came in a bit, like this year or last year. But what I was studying in class is that there were some people here that was waiting for this course to start since November, but NEBOSH didn't clear it. And another thing that happened was that they didn't have any books in stock. So the way the process safety go, you have to buy a book to run the course. But there was no books from the NEBOSH shop side then. There's a shop facility. So we had to wait, right? Anyway, the point of that story is that this is NEBOSH course, right? So this is why you all chose to do it. Remember, NEBOSH is not Cipriani or Costa. This is not local. This is globally recognized. And they control it, right? We are what you call an accredited center. But we don't set the rules, right? We like if the British say jump, we have to jump now, right? So at the moment, there is no written exam since about 2020, since about the pandemic, right? So just to run through again, you will be given a link. The link will link it to a platform on the day of the exam. Well, you have to have a laptop. This exam is going to be in March, right? So if you have to borrow one or whatever, it have to have a webcam on. And prior to sitting, but when you sit down, not prior to sitting, like when you sit down on that day, it's a Wednesday. The exams are on a Wednesday. Um, you have to run like a software on your computer, which is going to turn on your webcam, right? It's going to take control of your computer and it's going to pick up any person or digital devices you have around. In short, I was saying, if you just sit by a blank desk without a phone or without your textbook, everything will go good, right? You also should have no interruptions. If somebody interrupts or come into the room, they are looking at you, right? The folks in the UK looking at you. They have like a software too that does it, which is actually more precise than a person. If somebody comes in the room, they're gonna stop the exam and you don't get back the extra time, right? When they stop the exam, you're gonna have to do the setup all over again. The setup is you have to scan back your room, make sure the person leave your room, and all that time, your time is clicking or clocking down, right? It's an hour and a half. So if you take 15 minutes to reset your room, you don't get back the 15 minutes, right? However, as I was saying, not much people get problems with this because it's pretty straightforward. You log in, make sure you don't have nothing in your hand like a phone or book, close the door for an hour and a half, do your exam. Most people, 99.9% of the persons have no problems with it. And you don't have to get everything correct. You have to get 24 out of 40 questions correct. That's more than 16. You could get wrong and still pass. And they do repeat a lot of questions, so we need to do some questions. Yeah. I said overall, not because of Jillian. I said overall because remember I started recording late. I was actually trying to kill some time. And then like for Nikisi and Amanda and them, right? Like who not here. I wanted to say it over because I know that they are not on the live anyway, as yet, right? I'm not too sure if they will come in a bit, right? So anybody else? You think you're okay? The one thing I probably want to share, but I want to take this off, right? I want to take this off here. But I said it already. I mean, I don't know if I could, I mean, like sometimes you all, I have to write it, but you could write at the same time, right? So the other thing please remember is that this is a course from the UK. It's globally recognized. It does not expire. right? And we have done this for hundreds of students. When I mentioned Montserrat just now, I did process safety for them, right? I do this for companies. I do this February month. I'm doing this in DeSalcott, which is the water company. I don't think the person from Guyana is here, but everybody should know what these Salcott is, right? So we do this for companies, we do this for our students, right? This is one of our, I want to say this is probably one of our smaller batches, and I think the reason could have been around the Christmas time, right? And I didn't get time to actively sort of try to follow up with everybody, right? In terms of enrolling into the process safety course. So process safety normally is huge. Normally we have students of 30 students. So I'm actually kind of happy because it's not going to be stressful for me. For those who know, I teach right through, I teach every day. But normally with a big class, it's very stressful. I think with a class of about, 9 to 10 students, I think everybody could pass. And everybody normally does pass. But the bigger classes, the classes of 30 and stuff, you normally find, one or two persons falling through anyway, right? But the pass rate, like I said, is pretty high. Those people who fall through sometimes are ones who don't study. And I mean, for the whole of last year, we had 100% passes. So when I tell you that, that's like 2020, that's like years before, right? The whole of 2023, we had 100% passes, 2022, 100% passes, right? But in the history of running the course, and since 2017 to now, there have been one or two persons that may have been referred. And for different reasons, right? Some people are working, some people are shut down and stuff and don't get time to study. So they often genuine reasons that come down to really studies and not really, anything else. Right, folks, let's make a start. Well, there's two things I wanted to say, but I would just say the other one. The other one is that this is a level 4 course, right? Now, level 4 means that the degree of work is going to be a bit deeper than maybe, like what some persons are accustomed to. However, when I teach it, I'm going to take my time to explain it, right? So if you have never done the NEBOSH level 3, some of the work here is based on that. But at the same time, we're going to explain it for you anyway, as if you have done level 3. At the end of the day, though, please remember, even if it's a kind of deeper level course, the exam is still multiple choice. And you would see, folks, one of the things you'll see is that not all the questions are hard. Really, there are some that are kind of tricky. But I think about maybe half the paper is just kind of simple questions. You'll see what I'm talking about. Like, I don't know if you want to write that down. I think that's something that you could write down. Like, the level of the work then is deep. But at the end of the day, the question they give you for exam is not that difficult. I'll say that again. The level of the work is deep, right? And that doesn't mean then that the questions are all going to be hard. You'll see for yourself, today you have questions in this presentation, right? So you'll see for yourself that after you do a concept, the question wasn't that hard, right? But there are going to be some tricky ones. There are going to be some, I can't guarantee you all 40 questions like that. But I think about half of the questions is just doable questions anyway. And you'll see that for yourself. So if you write that down, I made a note, I've seen it 3 times so that you'll know that not everything, you'll see some concepts. The concept is real difficult, but the question is real easy, right? So you'll see for yourself as we go through the session anyway. So let's make a start. I'm going to clear all of that. Again, thanks for joining in. It is a Sunday, right? And like I said, to me, it's not very stressful because it's not a lot to own, right? And I think I look forward to this class. Sometimes on a Sunday, I kind of dread teaching on a Sunday too. But this one is what I think I can look forward to. It's a nice small class, in the next couple of months, we're gonna get to know everybody and everybody's gonna get to know us anyway, right? If I do have those new students here who don't know us, like Jillian, I have Mitra, I think I have Anzari. If you don't know about us, so it's the Shadrach Safety Institute. And we are what you call a registered tertiary level institute. You've been around more than a decade. And in fact, NEBOSH has ranked us the highest course provider in the region. This is something that they did. And well, those of us who know me, fine. If you don't know me, I guess you get to know me. So I don't want to say too much, but this is a course that we brought, right? I brought many courses to Trinidad and Tobago over the last 15 to 20 years, right? So even though the school has been around within 15 years now, I was part of another school and Massey and stuff. Back then we used to call it Neil and Massey, right? Sharon may remember me from another school, which is even more than probably 15 years ago, right? But we brought some courses to Trinidad, right? That sort of has become the standard then for health and safety, right? One of those courses was IOSH Managing Safely, right? That's a course I brought to Trinidad here in 2011. And this course, I brought this to Trinidad in 2017, right? In fact, we were the pilot school for the course outside of the UK in 2017, right? And by 2018, the amount of companies was asking for this particular qualification. We had more than 100 companies, well, students and workers and stuff trained, in the first year of bringing the course to Trinidad and Tobago. All right, so that's a little bit about me and about the course. And for those of us who know, we don't just do certificates, we go straight up to the degree level, right? Our brand is very much similar to like a university brand. The only thing is that so we do certificates, we do different types of certificates, we do diplomas. There's actually masters as well, but there's no one in the master's program now because of money and because of GATE, right? GATE doesn't cover foreign courses anymore, right? So I don't have anybody. People are interested, but they have nobody in the master's program at the moment, right? So our brand is similar to like that, like to a university brand. The only difference is that we run NEBOSH, right? We don't run any, well, we do run some other brands, but our main brand then, right? So we are with the Accreditation Council, which is very much similar to COSTAT and Cipriani, right? COSTAT and Cipriani claim to fame is ACTT, but our claim to fame is not that, right? Our claim to fame is that yes, we're with the Accreditation Council and all of that, but our claim to fame is really NEBOSH, right? We offer that brand of certificates, of environmental courses, anything, right? Risk assessment is exactly all NEBOSH, right? So our claim to fame is NEBOSH. And again, for those of us who know the brand, which is the NEBOSH brand, the NEBOSH brand is the number one brand in health and safety. We didn't say that, right? NEBOSH has been around more than 40, 50 years now, right? And we offer that brand for now, right? We do have some other brands like IOSH and PCSI and stuff, but I think our biggest brand is the NEBOSH brand. And I think that's also why we are who we are in terms of safety, because the jobs sort of ask for NEBOSH rather than anything else anyway, right? So as we get into today's work, we're gonna try to cover maybe tell about 1.3. Now, if you want, I could explain some of these because, like I said, you can have your books if you have your book. Page 4, and we're gonna look at that, the meaning of process safety and how it differs from personal safety. Then the role of leadership in process safety management. You can find this in page 3 of your textbook. Then if you turn to page 4, you'll have to see some of it there. 1.3, explain the purpose of organizational learning and sharing of lessons learned. Now, these are not difficult concepts, and I can explain them to you in a heartbeat. But let's read a little bit first, and then I'll sort of explain them a bit, right? So we mightn't get into 1.4, or if we get into 1.4, that may be around getting to 2:30. So that's the end of the class there. Next week, you'll finish it. And also next week, I'll have to send you a new PowerPoint because 1.5 and 1.6 is not going to take us an entire Sunday. That's going to be finished in about half an hour time. So next week is already lesson 2 already, which is chapter 2, right? So outline the meaning of process safety and how it differs from personal safety. I'll read a little bit and then I'll explain, right? This definition is in your book on page 4 to the top right-hand side. Still page 4, but the book is kind of split down the middle now, right? And so whether or not you have your book, you have the same information is actually on this slide. In fact, this slide probably have a bit more. All right, when I wrote this slide, I wrote them with a bit more explanation than the textbook. You see what I'm talking about when we get into KPIs and stuff. The book may have 1, but I have 10 KPIs on this slide, right? So it's not that you have to know it, but you have to just understand the concept behind it, right? So let's read. Process safety has been defined by the Energy Institute definition adapted from the Center for Chemical Process Safety of the American Institute of chemical engineers as the following. The same thing is in the book, right? So it's a blend of engineering and management skills focused on preventing catastrophic accidents and near misses, particularly structural collapse, explosions, fires, toxic releases associated with a loss of containment of energy or dangerous substances such as chemicals and petroleum products. I'll explain in a bit, right? So personal safety can be defined as the protection of people and oneself from physical injury. So I'm not too sure if you catch it already. I'll explain it again. I'll read it again. Process safety is a blend of engineering and management skills focused on preventing catastrophic accidents and near misses, particularly structural collapse, explosion, fires, and toxic releases. However, personal safety is more concerned with your own physical body then, right? The protection of people and oneself from physical injury. It is in principle the absence of unacceptable risk. As such, if one accepts risk, then to them it is perceived to be safe. Example, the choice you make to cross a busy road with oncoming traffic. Usually, personal safety deals with hazards that are everyday or common occurrences that can be said to be high frequency but low severity risk, generally speaking, right? So let me explain a bit. So just to make it simple for you, um, it real simple, right? Process safety deals with more serious stuff. If you just look at the slide here, right? Process safety deals with things that are more catastrophic, right? So what does the word catastrophic mean? We are talking about here multiple fatalities, property damage, right? It's not your typical slip, trip, and fall accident, right? Personal safety could be somebody slip and fall and they sort of, sprain their ankle or something. Now that's still safety. It's still, I mean, so that's a level of safety, right? That the safety officer would look at. Personal safety too, this you have to do um with your perception, right? Like if you think like the room that you are in is safe, tell you it's safe. Somebody else may come in the room and say, well, this room is unsafe because it only have one, entrance and exit. But it still is a matter of perception, right? However, process safety really is not a matter of perception. If a vessel that is overheated, your perception doesn't matter, right? If a scaffold is about to collapse, then your perception that this thing is safe, it really doesn't matter, right? If there is a fire or toxic release, your perception doesn't matter. You can't say it's safe, right? So personal safety is a bit subjective, right? If you decide to cross a road, then that's a risk. If you decide to walk in front of a forklift, right? So the forklift driver is coming, you see him, and you think you could probably dash across in front of him, and you probably could. So you make a choice and you sort of did cross in front of the forklift and you got away, right? And nothing happened because you could estimate your risk. But that's still a matter of perception. But process safety, if you say that forklift is on a process safety accident, it have to be like on a plant where some chemical that forklift is carrying, right? Maybe huge barrels or something that would have fallen and now there's a spill. So your perception of what is going on doesn't really matter because what has happened could lead to like a catastrophe if that is some sort of flammable chemical then, right? So you think you get it a bit? If you look at the bottom line here, they say personal safety deals with things that are high frequency. Now, high frequency means they happen all the time. You can think about housekeeping, personal safety, right? Like slip, trips, and fall. There's always slip, trips, and fall. The rain fell today a bit. This morning I'm talking about the rain fell a bit in San Fernando, right? So, there's always going to be slip and trip hazards, right? Housekeeping is always going to be an issue. But at the same time, if somebody did slip and fall, yes, they could probably break a arm, right? Yes, they could probably get a strain, but that's not classed as a catastrophe. It's classed as probably like an injury, a major injury. A catastrophe is like the whole plant burned down and 167 people was killed. That is a catastrophe, right? So what we say, if you can pick it up here, right? Personal safety deals with things that are everyday, high frequency, But compared to to a catastrophe, the severity is low. So by contrast, process safety that you can say deals with things. If you can see, you can see this one, process safety. It's on the other slide. I'm just writing it here. Process safety deals with things like we try to prevent things then that are lower frequency. Low frequency. Now, low frequency means it doesn't happen every day. Not every day you have a fire that could threaten your whole compound. Not every day you have a catastrophe that could kill 167 people. So stuff that happen, like not every day you have a chemical spill. Not every day you have a NIQUA. Not every day you have a PARIA, right? But when it happens, it's low frequency, but the severity is really bad. The severity is totally off, right? In fact, you mightn't survive the severity then. If it happened, there would be multiple deaths, which is why it's classed as a catastrophe. You're lucky if the tanks, you're lucky if the plant is still around, right? So this is what process safety focuses on. You understand, those of us who did level 3, if you didn't do level 3, fine, right? I just said if you did level 3, you understand like level 3 NEBOSH focus on the person, preventing slip, trips, and fall, biological hazards to the person. The process safety is the person, but it's also the whole plant, right? Process safety is the person. You're trying to protect the person, but at the same time, this spill could not only affect one person, but hundreds of workers, a community, if there's a gas release, right? So process safety deals with things, like the characters on the slide there, that doesn't happen every day. It's not every day we have a PARIA. Not every day we have a NIQUAN. But when we have them, you feel them, right? Families feel them. The society feel it, right? So those things are classed as a disasters, a catastrophe, right? And process safety deals with preventing those anyway. So if you understand, I'm going to take that off. This is actually on the other slide. So when I move this slide, you'll see it on the other slide too, right? So if you have any questions, now one of the things I will do, well, those who know me and those who don't know me, I'll tell you now. So one of the things we do, we try to shout out we have a past paper, right? So we try to shout we have a past paper. So this is a past paper. That concept is a question. In other words, then you cannot open the question paper and not get a question on that, right? So the whole book cannot come because remember it's only 40 questions, right? But there are some things. If something is not a question, I will tell you NEBOSH don't have any question on this. But if something is a question, I'll tell you, look, you cannot, this is like for those of us who did the NEBOSH exam, like you couldn't open the paper and not get a question on culture then. Culture is there in every paper. Those who did level 3, culture is on every paper. So this is like that, right? As we go through the course, what I advise you to do is get some paper, right? And write down where I tell you, or you can write it in your book. Your book is your book, by the way. But it'd be nice if you write it on a paper, like, okay, this is a concept but coming for exam. So when you're learning, when you open the paper and you see the question, you remember, tell you, look, this is a question. Now, I can't predict all 40. All I can do is tell you what is popular for the exam, right? And what is not popular as well, I'll tell you that too, right? So you don't really, you don't really waste your time studying things that are not important then, right? Remember, this is not an open book exam. You're going to have to study. So look, I have it here, right? Process safety deals with things that are low frequency. Low frequency means it don't happen every day. But when they happen, it's very high. Common examples can include, there was an offshore platform called Piper Alpha. The year was 1988 on the 6th of July, in which a series of explosions ripped through a platform, killing 167 persons in the UK North Sea. So that's not a normal accident. That's not, that's not, you can't say this is, that's a catastrophe. There's not a way to describe it, right? Not one person, not 16, not 67. I mean, one is bad enough, but 167, right? We also have other disasters around the world. The Nipro UK chemical plant explosion at Flixborough. I actually have the video for all of these. I actually have the real video for this. Left 28 dead, 36 injured, and damages up to 2 miles away. I'll explain that in a bit. I'll explain something there. The explosion was equivalent to 45 tons of TNT. So if you see the video on this, I can't show you all the videos, I mean, but you could just put this in Google, sorry, in YouTube, the Flixborough, UK, explosion. You had people, residents, houses that was away from the plant, kind of like, in Point Lisa, so maybe if you live in Point Fortin, right? Or even those of us, I mean, I'm in San Fernando, and we felt the explosion from Naikwan, right? So it had people who were living kind of like close to the Nipro UK chemical plant, and their houses were damaged. Now I may wonder, why am I saying this? How is that even important? Well, if you know a British house, right? British homes are kind of different from our homes, right? The bricks they use is a different kind of brick, right? For you picture the brickyard, they probably picture, well, if you haven't been to the UK, right, you have to kind of picture that that nursery rhyme with the three little pigs, and one of the pig, made his house out of bricks. That kind of hard brick is the bricks that they use. They don't use kind of bricks like us, right? It's a kind of different sort of brick. And even the roofing materials is a different sort of roofing material. In other words, that they do not use like new wave galvanized or alu sheets. They don't really use that. They use a kind of tile. So to have solid bricks then and to have the tile roof damage would have led you to know the blast wave then, right? Which is why they said it's equivalent to about 45 tons of TNT. The blast wave, even though your house wasn't even close to the plant, could have been a good couple miles away, right? It was damaged by the blast wave anyway. So 28 dead, 36 injured, damages up to 2 miles away. The real video for this is on YouTube, the actual thing, not a reenactment, right? Not a reenactment, the actual videos. All of these are the actual videos actually on YouTube. So I would show you a video one of the days. I don't like to show too much of videos for those who know me. I will show one, right? The reason why I don't is that it kind of takes away from our teaching time, right? So, I will show you one. I mean, if you can get the idea, I'll show you one next week. Today's the first day. I really don't want to waste the time by showing you a video, right? I will tell you to have a video, and if you're interested enough, you can just go on YouTube and just plug it in, and you'll see it next week. I'll show you one anyway, right? All right. So, let's read again. The protection of people and property from episodic and catastrophic incidents that may result from unplanned or unexpected deviations in process conditions. That's a definition for process safety again. Here I have, remember I told you I know we have more. Those of us in the book, just watch what I'm telling you. If you watch page 4, you see I have more explanation than the book, right? And this is just to help you, right? So here you have a sort of, a contrast between personal safety and process safety. So just look at it a bit. So personal safety apply to all workplaces. Process safety do more have to do with a plant, the chemical, petrochemical, energy, the industry. Personal safety deals with everyday hazards, slip, trips, and fall, unsafe act, unsafe condition. Process safety deals with kind of more of the serious hazards then, right? The hazardous properties of substances. Like even the forms are different. In a normal safety or laboratory safety or safety officer, they will fill out things like a normal, like on-site hazard identification sheet. They may do a JHA. But in process safety, we have some more detailed forms to cover in this course. Now, like you're not going to cover all today. You're not going to cover all next week. You're going to cover all as you go through the course, right? So some of the more detailed forms is actually something called a hazard, right? Hazard and operability study. If you want to take it down now, you don't have to, because HAZOP is not really today's work, right? But HAZOP stands for hazard, right? Hazard and operability studies. You can find it in chapter 2, right? So we have MOC, which stands for management of change. Even the forms are different because you see it's more serious then. So we have to find a more detailed way to deal with it. We have asset management, and we have major accident policies or prevention policies, etc. Right? MOC again is management of change. Asset management is actually a form, by the way, too, an asset register, right? So let me see if you understand a bit. So those who are here, like Anzari and Jillian and Mitra, they sort of newer folks then. Like you all familiar with what a GSA is, a GHA?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. What about Mitra? Mitra, have you say your mic? And I also have who again? I have there's another new person. Anzari, do you have use of your mic?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, yeah.
Yeah, I'm aware of the GSA and stuff.
Right. But when I reach this is chapter 2, I will still explain what a JHA is, right? So that you know how it is. And then we kind of contrast it to what a HAZUP is, right? For now, as this is just our 10th slide, what I'll tell you is like one is a basic version of the other one, and a HAZUP is more detailed than a JHA, right? And that's because I was saying because the outcome here is more deaths then and it's more property damage or serious property damage, there's like a more detailed way to look at it, right? Just before I forget, I sometimes do this as well. Um, if I see any jobs in process safety, I'll post it out to you all. But we have to create a WhatsApp group for you all as well too, right? But yesterday, you can do this for yourself. The class I had, the NEBOSH classes I had, um, I was looking at a job for the NEBOSH certificate students and I saw process safety as well. So if you have some time, if you don't get the time, I'll probably try to create a group and send it to you all. You would see then, like if you read through a resume, not resume, if you read through the requirement for a process job, you'll see like you have to be competent in HAZOPs, right? So that's what that is. By the way, these are separate courses. However, I'm not aware of anybody doing it except me, right? I did some years ago, a long story short, for DSALCOT. I did hazard training for them. And because of that, they have always come back to me. I told you next month, I have some process safety doing for them. So this is 2024 and they're still coming back to sort of get some of that done anyway, right? But the difference is one form is more detailed than the other form, right? And that's because of the risk of the hazard, that we have to deal with. Well, this one is already highlighted for you, but the next one is not. So let's do this one. So this is an actual question, right? Yes, I've built some of them. I've built some of them into the presentation, but some of them I have to give you a past paper. I have one right here, I have a paper right here, but I think what we should do, let's try to finish chapter 1 next week. And then I'll give you a past paper, right? Because there'll be questions you cannot do. So how I've done it in the presentation, I've taken out some questions and I've put it here. So I know you could do these anyway. So let's see what this one is. The question has been highlighted already, right? So they say process safety deals with, let's think about it, right? So process safety deals with high frequency. But friend, let me see that you should stop reading because process safety stuff do happen every day. It's not every day we have an oil rig on fire. So you stop reading at one time because it's wrong. The other one, low frequency. Yes, you keep reading low frequency, high severity. Well, that's
Right.
correct. If you want, you could. I'm just saying. I'm just thinking. If it was the day of the exam, you could read all the rest. But I don't think there'll be another correct answer because that is a correct answer, right? And in multiple choice, there's only one correct answer. So if you get the correct answer, then I think you should move on. But I would read them out, right? So the other one say low frequency, low severity. No, right? If our oil rig is on fire, that is nothing simple, right? That is nothing. If a vessel is overheated, those of us who know about explosions and types of explosion, which I don't want to call, right? If you know about them, then I mean that's nothing simple. Yes, there are types of explosions, right? We have to cover that also in chapter 3. If you have your books, you can look through all of these things, and there are different types of explosions, levies and stuff. There's no way that's going to be simple. Yeah, that's actually a word, right? Levy, B-L-E-V-E. You would have to learn it too, but you can't learn everything one day, right? You learn them as we go along, right? The last one, high frequency. I wouldn't read the rest of it. High frequency, because we know high frequency means it happen every day, but no, process safety stuff do happen every day. So it's low frequency. So the answer is either going to be B or C, but I've already highlighted this one, so the answer is B. This one though has not been highlighted. So take a look at this and tell me what you think the answers. You can put it in the chat if you want, or if you want, you could just say it out. I'll give you 2 minutes to come up with an answer. A time in here is exactly 1:49. I'll take off myself so I do distract you all. You can put it in the chat. Right, only one answer comments is about 8 o'clock, 7 are you all here? Only one answer in the chat. Put an answer, put something, A, B, C, or D. Make a guess. I guess that's a good thing about multiple choice. You can still make a guess, right? I given you, no, that's 115. Okay, but what did the rest of you say? I'll have to call you all by name then if you're not given an answer. Um, let's see if you came up with the correct answer, right? Remember, we're here to help you for now. All right, so Warren, Mitra, thanks for the answers. And Zari, thanks for the answer. Sharon as well, thanks for the answer, right? Anybody else want to chime in on it? Did I leave out anybody? Jillian, thanks for the answer as well, right? So Zoom could be very interactive. As a Beverly, thanks for the answer as well. I have like the training I'm doing at DSALCOT, I told them I want to do it face to face. Zoom can be very interactive, but you all have to interact. But the company, since last year, I kind of went back out. I told I did a whole bunch for different companies. I can't call all the name here, but like December alone, I did well servicing so many companies. You might know them, right? Catalyst-based companies throughout Trinidad, right? DSALCOT. This week I'm actually at DSALCOT and another company called FAMChem, right? So yeah, so so some of the training I do prefer them face to face because people take part, but I guess All right, so the answer is really D, right? So D is the answer, right? So I think A, B, and this is the catch in multiple choice. Like A is correct, B is correct, C is correct, right? Like all of them correct, right? Now, not all multiple choice is like that. A is correct and a prevented major incidents, prevented major. B is correct too. All of them correct. But I think if I choose an answer like D, D wraps up everything then, right? Like prevented major incidents within high hazard industries because the large manufacturing industry fall under that, food processing falls under that, chemical industries fall under that, right? So the best answer here will be D, and this is the catch with multiple choice, right? But remember the good news. Anybody remember the good news? What was the good news about the exam? There was some good news. What was the good news with the exam? Anybody remember? what do they do with the questions?
They repeat them.
They repeat. So never let a question go. Like when you see a question like that, they repeat some questions. Like you don't know if the same question coming back. All of these are past papers in it. I haven't put any question here that's not a past paper. This one and this one. Even have another one too, better yet, right? So they repeat questions, right? So never let a question go to waste. Never let them go to waste, right? Because these are the same questions that they repeat back anyway, right? Look another one here, see if I can get this one. I'll stay on in the line for this one, right? So process safety differs from personal safety or person safety because it protects. I think is the best answer for this one.
I'll say D.
Right, okay, very good. So it is D. D is the answer, right? Now, what you all could do, I don't know if you want to, what you all could do is print out your handout. These are kind of long handouts. You see 94 slides on it. Yeah, right, very good, right? There's a way to do, I do it just like that. Julian, you just want to hold it up again? You print it like 6 on a sheet, yeah. If you print 6 slides on a sheet, yeah, that's how we do it. So you end up saving paper now, right? Folks, again, I mean, like I said, believe it or not, I did tell you how it is. I'm not telling you things to tell you anything about me. You know, I'm telling you the truth. When I first brought this course to Trinidad, right, the year was 2017, it didn't have a textbook. NEBOSH did not write a book as I told you, we were the pilot school, right? We were the pilot out of the UK, right? And it didn't have a textbook. So even maybe Sharon could tell you all those stories another day. Even in the school that I went to, in safety, I'm talking about, we never got textbooks. Textbooks? We never even saw a textbook, right? But of course, they didn't have processes like safety back then. I'm talking about the NEBOSH level 3 and stuff, right? One of the things I used to do, right? I used to always print my handout, always, right? And wherever I'm going, I would have them. Like, you know, I still do that, right? Like if you're, for those of us who know, I still, well, I don't study, but I prepare work now. Like if I'm going to the bank or somewhere that I think may have a line, I carry my handout with me, right? And, you know, so that's a good way to study then. If you don't want to carry on your book. Now, a lot of people, because we make sure they give you a book, right? So a lot of people carry their book, but if you find like maybe a handout is more, you know, like workable there, like if you're on the go, right? There are many times when I'm waiting in traffic or waiting for someone picking up kids or something, I have my handouts. This is when I was, and even if I'm preparing something, I'm preparing a lesson, I'm preparing a training, I still have those things. Like I print Tuesday, I tell you I have a training, this risk assessment, I have the handouts printed out already. I printed them on Friday, right? So like tomorrow is Monday, I'm gonna carry one with me wherever I am at. I'm gonna run through it. I know it. I am the one who writes it. Like I write this thing, but I still run through because I just like to be on top of my game, like before a presentation. So your exam come like your presentations. If you have your handout, by the way, do you know it's just 3 handouts? It's just 3 handouts in it, right? There's a handout for chapter 1, there's a handout for chapter 2, there's a handout for chapter 3 and 4. It's just 3 handouts, right? So if you have them, you're kind of good to go, and it's very good that, you keep them close to you anyway, right? So please do that. I used to do that, and it's so good to see some students doing that as well. All right, next concept here, process safety leadership. Remember, it's 3 concepts I'm going to finish, right? It's 1.2 and 1.3. So again, the format is I'm going to read a couple of these, explain them a bit, and then there's going to be a couple of questions on it, right? This one is so easy. This is the easiest one. The heading alone says it. Process safety leadership. Process safety leadership, right? That's the heading is the answer. Process safety leadership, right? But let me read a couple and then we'll explain, right? So process safety must start at the top, with leadership teams being fully aware of the hazards of their processes, the risk potential of their process, the possible impact of the hazard being realized on the safety, reputation, and business aspect should it occur. Leadership teams must therefore develop and foster a culture that would see process safety as of the highest priority. Now, they kind of have to do that because if they don't, remember, the outcome is a catastrophe, right? Senior management and directors must also be visible in promoting and developing a positive safety culture. And most of the companies I've been to, they try. They try, right? I can't say they dare, but they try, right? Senior management and directors must also be visible in promoting and developing a positive safety culture. Senior management should define and assign responsibility for process safety management critical positions. Such persons with PSM critical responsibilities should be held accountable regardless of their positions within the organization. Well, this is actually just how it is. I mean, this is nothing new enough, right? This is really not new. It's not new here, right? Like if you are a process engineer, a process technician, that will be written into your job description, right? Like you are accountable for your part of the plan should something happen, and you would sign that, right? So it is not really new there anyway, right? Senior managers should provide adequate resources of process safety management and should be aware or made aware of the consequences of not providing them. These can include moral, legal, and financial reasons. For those who know, there's like 3 reasons for managers to, invest in safety. There's a moral reason, meaning that's the right thing to do. There is the law, which means, like the OSH Act, and there are also financial reasons to invest in health and safety. Adequate resources can include human resources, training, skilled technician. The amount of training and skilled persons must be proportional to the risk. The senior manager should provide financial resources, time and money. Physical, they should upkeep the physical, part of the plant, the design and maintenance, modification of plant and equipment. So process safety leadership, the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974, this is the main law for health and safety in England. If you're not aware of that, you could take a note of it. It's not really an exam question. I'll say that again, right? If you're here and you haven't done a UK-based course before, the HSW Act, which is the Health and Safety at Work Act, is like the OSHA. But in England, they don't say OSHA. OSHA is like American, right? So in England, they say, well, the acronym is HSW, right? So, OSHA is an acronym too. So in England, they say HSW, which is the Health and Safety at Work Act, requires the employer to prepare, review a written health and safety policy once there are 5 or more persons employed. This must be brought, and any revision of it, to the attention of the employees. The health and safety policy usually sets out the goals, aims, objectives, and targets of the organization. Senior managers and leadership teams in process safety must also set process safety objectives and targets that must be routinely reviewed and must be publicly available, right? So I'll explain in a bit. This is really simple stuff, but I'll read in a bit, right? Process safety management follows up the Occupational Health and Safety Management System in the UK, known as the Plan, Do, Check, Act cycle, or PDCA cycle. This model of management is based on the idea of continual improvement, and the same must be applied to process safety. All right, I could pause here a bit and just explain all of that here. It was right on the slide. I mean, just pinpointed. Yes, go ahead.
One question. Is it that you hear me right?
Yes, clear. Yes, we hear it clear. Yeah.
Right. Is it that in process safety because it deals with bigger impacts and stuff like that from accidents? Is it that there's less delegation, or is similar to personal safety where you delegate audits and stuff to like supervisors and stuff go down like how you normally do it?
Yeah,
Do they stay
I
within
think it's more
managers and
delegation than anything else anyway. I think because the risk is so high, I think it's much more structured than your everyday safety then. I think it's much more delegated than your normal safety officer, right? There's much more accountabilities then, right? And okay, like for example, I can probably give you one, like in a normal compound, if somebody slipped but it didn't fall, right? That is what we call an incident, right? But on a plan then, like if something happened, let's say there was a gas release, but there was no fire, there's going to be like a greater level of investigation into that gas release, right? Than a normal slip then. So I do think, even if that slip, I mean, that same slip could happen on an offshore platform, right? But that same slip, is treated much more seriously than if it's on an offshore platform than if you're just on your normal compound. So I think the level of accountability is much more in process safety than it is in your everyday run-of-the-mill. And you see, in the everyday run-of-the-mill safety, yes, what happened was an incident and really nobody was injured. But on a plant, if there is a gas release and there's no fire, or there was a slip and somebody slipped from a rig or something, the outcome is going to be much more catastrophic then, right? So it's treated much more seriously than the everyday sort of safety anyway, right? All right, just to get back into the expedition. So those who are kind of new, I'll just write it here. So just to say it, right, just to boil the whole thing down, the heading is process safety leadership. And what they were trying to tell you is that there is a law, right, in England called the Health and Safety at Work Act, and it required the employer to prepare health and safety policy, right? So the policy, just try to bear with me a bit, right? The policy is going to be that statement then that say the company is going to be, oh, so you're all familiar with a policy statement, right? I mean, there's a question I could ask, right? I mean, you're familiar with a policy statement. A policy statement, you can find it, you know, sometimes you go into a company, as you enter the company, you see it on the notice board, you see it behind the receptionist, right? A lot of people will have like, safety is my first priority, right? They'll have those kind of things. If you go down to Flow to pay your cable bill, you go to TNTech, Trinidad and Tobago, Electricity Commission, for those of us who in Guyana who'll be listening to the recording, right? You know, when you go to TNTech, you see the HSE policy statement there. So what they're saying is that similarly, I don't know if you can understand what they're saying, similarly, the process industry going to have to create a policy for process safety, or perhaps one of the things in it is going to be for process safety. I'll say that again. So the first question is, can you remember what, or could you remember seeing a company's safety policy? In it, you'll see like some bullet points, and they'll have in it like what they committed to, right? So if it's you know, like Flow, they will say they want to maintain safe access and egress. They're gonna say that they want to maintain a site that is free of hazards. You must remember seeing like that one pager. A lot of people have it on a plaque. Some companies have it on like a plaque. It's in the front of the compound, right? So they have things that provide PPE. I'm just going to put 3 good ones here, right? Provide PPE for the workers. They're going to provide welfare facilities. The next time you're down by Flow, if you're going down physically, some people of course pay online, or the next time you're at a company, just take a look at the policy, the HSE policy, right? Courts have one, feds have one. As you get into those things, you can see it, right? But remember, this is everyday safety. What the note is saying is that similarly, the process safety will have to create one of this. They have to create some criteria then, like a process safety policy, because the law actually require that, right? The law require them to have a safety policy. But because the industry is process safety, they will have to make one for process safety. So some of the things you'll find in it. Now, this is actually lesson 2. This is actually part of next week book, right? So I'll just give you 1 or 2 things in it. So because it's like preventing catastrophes, you'll have to see that. Like they'd have to prevent, they can say like they want to prevent major catastrophes. If you want to look at chapter 2 in the book after the class, you'll find some of this, right? So some of the things they want in a PSM policy is to prevent things like disasters, prevent catastrophes, right? I just put cat there, right? Prevent catastrophes. They want to say things like they want to have like 0. You see, they have to commit themselves to like a greater degree of safety, like 0 incidents, 0 spills, right? So 0 incidents, right? They want to have things, you know, like 100% training, right? Any operator must be 100% trained. They cannot risk and say 50 and 70, right? 100% employees trained in process safety, 100%. This is TRAIN, right? It doesn't quite look at that. But the thing is, you have to create like a policy, and this is where the leadership is. This is how this slide was saying, you know, the manager should allocate monies, the manager should allocate time, right? They should allocate, you know, they should support it from the top, right? So this is the whole thing, that leadership starts from there, then like that commitment to say what it is in your company and what you're going to commit to. So like I said, Atlantic LNG, when we first brought process safety to Trinidad, had everybody trained. Even Grenada, right? The other company in Grenada, Grenlec, which is the electricity company, Desalcott now seems to be doing a lot of training with process safety, right? And so that's something that they would have committed to, that they want all of their technicians, all of their process operators trained in, the NEBOSH process safety anyway, right? All right, folks, other than that, that's just explanation. I want to kind of get back to our past paper, right? All of that was just explanation to tell you, like, the managers must support the policy from the top. Otherwise, who is going to provide the money for all of these things, right? Who is going to give the time to do all of these things? It had to be the managers, right? Now, I need to clean this slide. I want to go back a bit and show you something. I think it doesn't allow me to go back. Let me just see something here. If I can go back, I'll leave the writing. But I want to take it out too because I have something else to write. Yeah, it doesn't, Zoom is sort of funny. If you don't clear that screen, it doesn't go back, right? So I have to clear it. Anybody write it now? If you didn't quite get all of this, you'll get it next week, right? That I guess the whole story here is that in everyday safety, they have a safety policy. But in process safety, you have to have a process safety policy too. And it had to be different. It can't just be the same thing then. It had to be like you're preventing major, property damage, that you have to say things then that reflect the catastrophe then that could happen, right? So because of that, you want everybody trained. You want 100% inspection records. You want 100%, of modifications done on your plant. You want 100% of the valves working properly, right? So it's based on the plant, right? If it's a tank, a vessel, that this tank and vessel must be 100% certified. It can't be any other way, because if something happens, you're going to end up in a catastrophe, right? So the level of commitment in PSM or that policy for process safety is going to be always a very high level, right? All right, I said all of that. Could I take it off what I have there? Because I wasn't getting to go back on this slide. I have to take it off to show you something. Are we coming back to this slide? Tell me what to do. Take it off, or you're writing anything still? You would see a lot of it in chapter 2. So there's not even, but it's the same concept. So the concept wouldn't change, right? The concept wouldn't change. It's just that I have more examples in chapter 2. But the concept still is the same. You need a process safety policy that's going to be more refined than your everyday policy, right? What to do? Anybody write it? Anybody tell me what to do? Put it in the chat.
I already finished writing.
Okay. Anybody else?
Take it, go ahead and clear it.
Take it off. Okay. All right. Thanks very much.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm taking it off now. All right. So so we comment on an exam question, right? That I tell you was explanation. With this course, yeah, I don't understand, but then it have the exam questions too, right? So it's kind of like twofold. In other words, it have the reality. Like in reality, you have to have a PSM policy, but there's an exam question. So we have to kind of reflect on that as well, right? All right, so what's something here, right? I'm going back to our slide. They mentioned here that process safety management follows from the Occupational Health and Safety Management System in the UK, known as the Plan, Do, Check, Act Cycle, PDCA. Now, what's something here, right? If you wanted to know what is that, well, here's the thing, right? You all know what ISO is? Yeah, I mean, you heard about ISO already, right? The ISO standards. And those of us in Trinidad, but if you're in Guyana, you hear about ISO a lot. But those of us in Trinidad, we have our own safety management system in Trinidad and Tobago. Anybody can complete this for me? What is the next letter? What is our safety management system called in Trinidad?
W.
W, right? And
STOW.
you pronounce it as STOW, S-T-O-W,
STOW.
right? STOW. So anyway, that's what I do too. I'm a consultant for STOW. I actually do too much work right now, right? But anyway, I do that for companies too, right? So if you wonder why am I mentioning this, why have I gone to mention ISO and STOW? Well, here's the reason why. PDCA, all of these are what you call a management system. Watch me carefully, right? All of these are management systems. ISO is like global. STO is Trinidad, and PDCA is the most common management system they use in England. Look, they said it here, right? I know sometimes when you read it, don't catch it, right? Process safety management follows some of the occupation and health and safety management system in the UK. So in the UK, they don't know what, in fact, they don't know what STO is. STO was brought here from England, but STO is not the most common management system in England, right? The most common management system in England is known as the PDCA cycle, right? Well, actually, it's known as HSG 65. Just to be honest, just to get it correct here. Next thing somebody hear me what I said just now there, right? But the acronym then, for HSG 65, right? Or should I say the principle at which it follows is called the Plan, Do, Check, Act cycle, right? But that's the most common management system they have in the UK. And seeing that this course comes from England, therefore, out of all the management systems it have, well, we have 3 on this slide, but it have more management systems. It have European management systems, Canadian management systems, American management systems. But the one that's going to come for your exam is going to be this one, right? So going forward now, but I think I may have to clean this slide again. Oh no, I was able to get it. Okay, so you see this management system here, right? Let me tell you what happens with it, right? So if you're looking at it, the first thing I'll tell you is that you will have to learn this management system, right? So remember we just said the law require policies. Look, policy there. Policy falls under planning, right? Implementation and operation falls under doing. Measuring performance falls under checking. Reviewing performance, learning lesson falls under acting. And if you wonder why am I doing it like this, it's because that's what they will ask you. What they do for multiple choice, they give you one of these words and they ask you to line it up. Like where does it fall, right? Like where does reviewing performance fall, right? So we can't help you with that because remember you have to learn this now, you'll have to learn this. Or you can try to think about it. Policy is always planning. Measuring performance is like an inspection. If you want, you can take that down, right? Measuring performance is like you're doing an inspection. So if you're doing an inspection, that's really checking, right? Measuring performance is like you're checking up on yourself, then you're measuring your performance. Measuring performance is like an inspection, right? Measuring performance is also like an audit too, right? That falls under checking, right? Anything you do, like a tour, you take a tour, you take a walk, that falls under checking, right? Let's come back to this. And doing, I'm giving you some sub points here, right? Doing is like you're doing, but let's start off with the document that you all said you know, a JSA. So doing a JSA, and you see that where does JSA fall? It falls under doing. Risk assessments, where does that fall? Once you have to do it then, once you have to get it done, it falls under doing, right? And the new one we saw today, hazards. Getting a hazard done falls under do it, right? Okay, now I'm gonna put another one. You see a job description that falls under doing too, right? Job descriptions fall under doing, right? JDs fall under doing. Okay, this one here, acting, what I should do here, right? I'm looking at the time. I need to tell you something about acting. So here the thing about acting, right? Acting is not really acting. That kind of strange to say, right? Acting is not really acting. I think the creator of this chart, which wasn't me, but this is something in England, right? The Plan, Do, Check, Act cycle. When they were creating this, I think they were trying to make an acronym, Plan, Do, Check, Act. But act is really not acting. Act is actually short for something else. I'm trying to see where to put that for you. The most I can put it is here. You see, acting, because if I put it outside it, it'll be like, I mean, it's not one of these. Acting itself is actually a shortened form of another word. Acting should really be action to improve. That's where they get acting from. So acting is not really acting. Acting is really action. But I don't know why they went with act. I guess I was telling you all, they were trying to make an acronym to help people remember it, but acted is not really acted. Plan is plan, do is do, check is check, right? But acting is not really acted. Acting is actually short for action for improvement. Could you write all of that down inside here, if you could? And if you're making notes, if you're, you probably don't have any writing materials, this should be in your book, I can tell you the page if you want to. This is, we could get this. And you can probably just write it in your book. The book is yours, right? The book is yours to keep. Trying to see where this will be. Some of this is actually in chapter 2, to be honest with you, right? They expand on a lot of this in chapter 2. But the thing is, the question is there anyway. It's on page 26. I don't know if you have your book or, you can see it there. This is page 26. Your page may be different. I have like my book is since 2017, this particular edition. But plan, do,
It's
check.
actually page 26.
Okay, it's 26 though?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, great. I just have an old book home. Like when we buy the shipment, you all get the new books now, right? So just say maybe the page can be different, right? But acting is action for improvement, right? So I'm saying if you don't have anything to write it, you can write it in your book. The book is yours to keep for life, right? So that's why if you read it now, you see things like lessons learned. Lessons learned, you understand? I wonder if you understand it. You see, if you didn't know, let me say, like if you didn't know acting was short for action to improve, you could have put, like, okay, somebody could have probably put, like risk assessments under acting, because acting sounds as if you have to do something. Like they could have put JSA under acting. But acting is not acting. Acting is short for action for improvement. So then risk assessments don't fall under acting, right? So not too sure if anybody ever told you that, but acting is not acting. But I said maybe they were trying to create an acronym plan, do, check, act, so everybody remember it. But it's very confusing if you don't know, because if I didn't say this, remember the multiple choice will tell you that. So let's say a multiple choice give you a question. So like, where does HACCPs fall? And you didn't know HACCP sound as if it's something you have to do, but then acting is also doing. But acting is not acting. Acting is action for improve. So if you know acting is action for improve, then HACCPs doesn't fall there. What fall there is like lessons learned. You understand it now? Does it make sense now? Understand it better now? So you have to understand that acting is not getting anything done, but acting is action for improvement. And if you understand that, that is why lessons learned fall under action for improvement. Reviewing performance fall under action for improvement. And there's one catch again here. There's actually one catch again. I think nobody, I guess it's up to teachers to tell you all these things, right? But, the action for improvement is actually not meant for everybody. I don't know if you know that. Action for improvement is actually meant for senior managers. Action for improvement is meant for senior managers. That's why you see things like lessons learned, reviewing performance at the end of the year or the quarter, right? Action for improvement is not meant for your normal safety. Now, if you didn't know that, you could have confused auditing with that one too. So somebody tell you auditing, you could say auditing fall under acting, right? Auditing falls under acting. Or maybe inspection fall under acting, but really not. Because it's things that is for improvement, right? So if something have to check, if something have to get done, like via a check, but then it falls under check-in. But like the audit review then, folks, I wonder if you're getting what I'm saying. I'm sure you're missing it. What I'm trying to tell you is that you have to be real careful for exam. I should probably put A, B, C, D instead. You have to be very careful for exam, right? You see, if they say something like performing an audit, and they ask you, where does that fall? Remember, this is multiple choice. They say performing an audit. I'll do this one for you. I'll do it one for you, right? And because I'm looking at the time. If I say performing an audit, that falls under check-in. But if the phrase is reviewing an audit report, that falls under action for improvement. You have to be careful, it's the same thing. Remember, it's multiple choice. It could come very tricky. Anyway, folks, I have two here, I think. So let's look at two past papers. Now, as I was telling you before, when I started the course, I told you to write something down. The thing I wanted you to write down is like a tagline. The work may be deep, but the exam question is easy. The work may be deep, but the exam question is easy. Let's just take a look. So we're going to look at two actual questions to end the thing because it's 2:23 already, right? So we didn't get to do 1.3 today. All right, let's take a look at this one. I think I have two here. I normally highlight one because just to let you, to kind of encourage you. And then the other one is for you to do, right? So the key elements, this is a past paper, it was question 14 of a past paper. The key elements of a process safety management system follow the plan, do, check, act model in England, because around the world it follows TOA and ISO, right? But in England it follows plan, do, check, act. Implementation and operation aligns with which part of the model? So because today is not the exam, you can look back at your book, or you can look back at your PowerPoint. Implementation and operation falls under, watch it here, it falls under doing, right? But remember, folks, the exam is not an open book exam. Those who did the level 3, this is something you have to learn, right? So if I said it already, but please take a note, you'll have to learn this, right? I told you as we go through the course, I will tell you what they like to bring for exam. This is one. That's why we stop and we do it past papers. What is process safety is also one. By the time you finish the 4 lessons, then you're ready for exam because I cannot tell you what coming for exam, right? And if you could write it down, today you'd have written down, okay, there are questions on what is PSM, and there are questions on the plan, do, check, act cycle, right? Let's take our next one. There's another one here. So remember the difference is that you wouldn't have your book on the day of the exam or the PowerPoint to look back, right? You'll have to put it in your head. So the little catch for this, I'm kind of talking to my students here, my certificate students who did the cert. Again, if you did the cert with anybody else, I'm talking to you too, right? Because for the NEBOSH certificate, you didn't have to study. It was an open book test. But this is not level 3, this is level 4, right? So you have to study a bit. You don't have to study everything, but like I tell you, you have to study now. This is something you have to learn by heart, right? Let's do the other one, and then I have probably I may sign off by that time. It's about 4 minutes again. I did have something else to tell you here, but let me see if it's not an exam question. It was just something, just some knowledge anyway. So if I don't get it, I really don't get it, right? All right. The next question. Try to do this one for yourself. The key elements of a process safety management system follows again the plan, do, check, act model. So you're seeing the question coming back over and over. Policy aligns itself with which part of the model. You can put it in the chat, you can just shout it because this is an easy one.
A.
Policy falls under A, right? Planning, yeah, right? So remember what I tell you. I'll tell you again. The work may be kind of deep, but the questions could be easy, right? The work may be kind of deep, but the questions could be easy. The only catch is though, this is January and the exam is in March, right? Which is why we record. So hopefully you'll play back all the recordings the week of the exam, the week before. You play back all the recordings, everything fresh in your head then, right? Very good. I think everybody had this one.
So when exam is started for?
I would have
March.
to check. Okay, so the other thing with that is NEBOSH have to set it. All I know is that we should be finished by March because I remember it's about 7 or 8 sessions, right? So I don't think we'll have class Carnival Sunday. That's the 11th, I think, of February. I think is Carnival Sunday. I don't think, well, we're not having any classes for this Saturday. I don't think, unless if you want to, I am not, I mean, we traditionally don't anyway, right? We don't really have class. So we have, let me just check the calendar. But NEBOSH have to set it, folks. This is what we said in the beginning. NEBOSH, this is NEBOSH course. You know, there are some things that we could do, there are some things that we cannot do, right? So today, so we have 3, today is 1, so we have 3 more. We have 2 more Sundays in January. The 4th, so that is 5. The 11th is Carnival Sunday, 6, 7. So by February, we should be finishing. So let's say something falls over into the 3rd of March. I'm just saying, let's say something falls over. Oh, by the way, I think there's a Sunday I'm not in Trinidad. I'm in Guyana, I think the 25th. So the 25th, you mightn't have any class. I might be traveling that Sunday. Not think, I know I have my ticket already. It's in my hand, literally. Well, not in my hand, but in the drawer here, right? So the 25th, that week I'm actually in Guyana, right? So let's say something fall over by the 10th of March, we should be finished. So the exam is typically, those of us who did the level 3, you know what I'm saying? The exam is normally a Wednesday. So I think they could set it to like the 20th of March or the 27th of March. It'll be one of those Wednesdays, right? You don't have to stay home because the exam is only an hour and a half long, right? You have a window. If you came in a bit late, you have a window of opportunity. You have whole day to do the exam, right? You can log in anytime on that Wednesday. When they set it, please, NEBOSH have just set the deadline. Don't say I tell you it's the 20th, right? When you get this type of paper, and well, the email saying exam is 20th or the 27th, then you know NEBOSH set it on that day, right? But you can log in anytime of the day. I normally ask people to do it in the morning, but you can log in anytime in the day or the night. When you do, you have an hour and a half to finish. However, the whole exercise may take you 3 hours or 2 hours. The reason is that when you sit by your computer, I told you, you have to run a scan of your room and stuff. If there's something that they pick up, all of that is time consuming. You're probably going to have to close if you have another device, right? They scan your computer. If there's anything open, you'll have to close it. It really don't take long, to be honest. I mean, I don't know how to convince you of that. Maybe I could have a student talk to you about that. I could have a student log in and just talk to us about it. Some people have no issues at all. But if you have internet issues where you are living, all of these things are going to be a problem, right? So on that Wednesday, March is fairly dry. There's not too much of rain anyway, but all of these things have affected people throughout the years then from 2017 to now anyway, right? But other than that, everything is okay for the time of the exam. Let me stop the recording. I did say that on record there. So we'll take it up from 1.3 next week. Looking at the number of slides, then I wouldn't send you another PowerPoint. What I'll do next week when we finish, I'll show you some past papers. I already have some past papers here. I'll show you them because I do feel we'll have to pick from it. We'll have to pick what we can do until we probably finish lesson 1, and then I could give you a whole past paper, and then you can try some questions, some that, right? The more work we do, the more past papers you'll be able to get done anyway, right? I do have a register, so let me just call the roll and